Hi there. Last night my gas cylinder ran out. Bit of a pain that. It doesn't give you any warning, it just goes dead and that's it. So you've got no gas, no heating, no cooker, nothing. So I do carry a spare cylinder fortunately, so I spent a few minutes and changed over the cylinder. And luckily there's a boatyard a couple of miles up, down towards Leicester from the Foxton flight. So I'm going to pop in there, get a new gas cylinder, get rid of my rubbish. They have washing machines. It's been a week since I did a wash, so it's about time to wash the bedding. And I'll pop in there. That's my goal for today really, and then get a bit closer towards Leicester. I'm not going to go through Leicester today. I might do it all in one hit tomorrow. There is rain forecast for later. So I'm going to crack on and get moving and go to the boatyard, which is called Dell Wharf Marina. As soon as you come out of Foxton, the canal is reasonably wide. There's a lot of water lilies and reeds growing along the sides of the canal here, so there's nowhere really to moor up unless you're prepared to hack a hole in the reeds. And we're straight into the rural countryside. I suppose we are in Leicestershire now, and as you can see, it's agricultural land. Very beautiful. Looking like rain over there on the in the hills. They did promise thunderstorms later today, again. The remains of an old hawthorn hedge there. Both sides of the canal, really impossible to tie up on though. But most people have stopped at Foxton anyway, so they wouldn't want to be tying up again. But look, you get your propeller really badly snagged in that lot. I mean, I've already had to put the engine in reverse to take weed off the propeller, and I've got a weed cutter on mine. Good engine speed helps to keep it off, that's for sure. Now I rant on and on about reeds and how the CRT are trying to encourage reeds to go all along the banks of the canals, and how it's not a good idea. And again here, the only reason that there is a passageway through the reeds is because boats go up and down here. We've got water lilies on the left hand side, which are a bit of a pain, and the reeds on the right, and it is very weedy along this section. We are just coming up to the Dell Wharf Bridge, and if it weren't for the passage of boats, this would be completely, basically weeded up. I've had to go into reverse every 5 minutes to clean my propeller off, so it's not good along here. I can imagine in the spring, when everything's growing really fast and there's less traffic, it's really quite difficult. Right, not the friendliest of places, but they grudgingly serve me my new gas, and they're filling me up with diesel, so here we go.
How much diesel would you like?
Full please, yes. Well, the marina staff warmed up a bit in the end. Had a nice little chat. I guess they were very busy and I did hold them up getting on with their work, but you know, people do call in to fill up with diesel. It's one of those things, it happens. But they were nice enough in the end, so I got what I wanted. But I didn't get my laundry done, which is a shame. I'll move on and do that another day in Leicester. If I just keep cracking on, I need to get moving, otherwise I'm never going to get anywhere, am I? If I keep stopping and wasting days here and there. So I'm going to continue a bit and aim to get to Newton Harcourt, which is supposed to be a nice place to stop, and I might cycle back and get the van if the rain lets up for long enough. Just coming up to a sign here which says please take care. You are entering an area which has been designated as a site of special scientific interest for its diversity of aquatic plants, especially pondweeds, 2 of which are nationally rare. Okay, so the pondweed here is rare. Alright, I'll try not to chop too much of it up with my propeller then. All the bridges here are numbered and named. This is 67 Finley's bridge, as you can see. Luckily they were all high enough to take my cockpit canopy, which I'm keeping up because it's threatening rain today. I hope we don't get any low bridges because that will be a real pain. And the agricultural theme continues. Alongside the canal are fields with sheep, cows here, we've passed sheep, and some arable crops too. On the surface of the water here you can see some water boatmen in the water lilies going crazy. They're just in the middle of the shot there. Lots and lots of them along here. Here's a big cloud of water boatmen. You can see the ripples. I don't know if you can see the water boatmen, but they're silver bodies. Plenty of hidden obstacles along here. Shallow, narrow. And the prop keeps getting fouled with this weed, the rare pondweed. So just take it easy and be careful. Reeds, rushes and trees obscure most of the mooring points along here. There is Armco, but most of it's covered with these huge beds of reeds. It's actually impossible to tell the condition of the bank here because of the thickness of the reeds. I mean, they must be 10 feet out from the bank. It's getting a bit thinner in front. Let's have a look. Bulrushes. Even here, they grow, 4 or 5 feet out. Now the bank's just literally collapsing into the cut. So I think that the CRT's policy is not to pile anymore. They don't put piling in. They just plant loads of reeds and hope that they'll retain the bank. The problem then is that they grow out across the canal and the bank will still crumble under the reeds. You're storing up a whole load of problems for yourselves in 5 or 10 years' time. Now I'm listening to my engine and the revs have just dropped, which means I've probably got another load of crap around the propeller. So most boats, you'll know what the maximum revs are at full throttle, and here it's 1 bar below 3000, which is 2800 RPM in gear. So if I open the throttle now, it's not giving that, which means I've got something on the propeller. So to clear it, you put it in reverse, and then go back into forward and check, and yes, it's clear. And then you can carry on at your normal speed. So you have to do this regularly. Listen to the engine. If the revs drop, you've got something on your propeller and you need to clean it. And by putting it in reverse, you can unwind whatever's got wound around your propeller. It doesn't always work. If it's a big piece of plastic or something like that, or a cloth or a plastic bag, it will be more trouble to get rid of. And as you go through the towns, you find there is a lot more plastic in the rivers or canals. So keep that in mind. Large parts of the Leicester section have these 1930s concrete piling edges to the canal, which have survived 75 years. A lot of this was done in 33, 34 according to the dates stamped on it. Obviously in some places it's crumbled away, but it's lasted incredibly well. I don't know what the policy is, but I don't think they're allowed to use concrete now because it's quite poisonous, not to mention bad for the environment in terms of manufacture of carbon release. But it's lasted incredibly well through a very active period on the canal when all the boats during the Second World War were charging up and down with important cargoes, Leicester, Birmingham and the Grand Union Main Line all the way down to London and the Limehouse docks. So yeah, I don't know if, well obviously reeds aren't going to be as long lived in terms of protecting the bank, which is falling away in places, as the concrete piling. But obviously it costs a lot to put up as well. So I believe on the left here, this is the Saddington Canal feeder, and this is a stream from a reservoir probably about half a mile away that tops the canal up. That is the Smeaton Aqueduct, this tiny little bridge that we're on. I think it must be. A very short aqueduct, but there it is. So here in front of us is a winding hole, and this is the last place you can turn before you get to the Saddington Tunnel, which is about 800 metres long, 880 yards it says. So we're just coming up to the Saddington Tunnel in a second. Just of note here is what they've done. Instead of piling the bank, they've hammered some wooden stakes in and covered them with this plastic. This does not seem to last very long. You tend to see this 3 or 4 years later, rotted and breaking up. So it doesn't retain the bank very well at all. It's cheap, I should imagine. Wooden stakes and plastic are a lot cheaper than, nylon, are a lot cheaper than concrete or steel piling. But how long does it last? How good is it? Right, now we're approaching the tunnel mouth, the southern portal. Extinguish all naked lights. It's the same old warnings that you get. But there is no boat in front, there's no boat coming through. Switch on your headlights, good idea. Right, Saddington Tunnel, built 1814, rebuilt 1918, sorry. And in we go, into the dark again. This is a very straight tunnel, and so far it looks quite dry. I've got my deck lights on, very handy, so you can see what you're doing up on deck. And check my nav lights. Yeah, I've got a nice green light on that wall and a nice red one on that wall, so everything's working just fine. I'll turn them off because you also have a white light on the stern of your boat, and that white light on the stern can confuse people behind you into thinking there's a boat coming the other way. So you don't want to do that. Another thing that it's very wise to do when you go into a tunnel is to put your jacket on, because you never know how wet the tunnel's going to be. Some of them are quite dry. This one so far doesn't seem to have any water coming through. But a lot of them, the deeper ones particularly, the longer ones, have air shafts that go up to the surface on the hill above, and a lot of water seems to run through those. You tend to get quite wet sometimes, you'll get a shower. So it makes sense to put a coat on. It's cooler in the tunnel anyway, and then at least if it does start to drip on you, you're prepared. That was the Saddington Tunnel, which was fairly straight. A few little wiggles here and there, and fairly dry as well. I only got dripped on once just after halfway through. We've got 3 miles or so to go now until we get to Newton Harcourt, which is probably about an hour's travel. And at that point, at 12 o'clock, rain is forecast, so I might well tie up and do some boaty jobs, some domestic boaty jobs like washing. Well, that was Fleckney Bridge we've just passed through, and if you do need supplies, you can tie up here, and behind those trees, about a 10-minute walk away, is Fleckney Village. You can't see it. I can see the houses through the trees, but you probably can't on this camera. There they are. Just about see them. So there's a footpath that leads through to Fleckney Village, and there are various shops and pubs, so you can get through there, and there's a chemist, I believe, as well. But it's still very rural along the canal here, very remote, and as the guide says, none of the villages are right next to the canal. I think Foxton was the last sort of any kind of building that we actually went through when we set off this morning, until you get to Newton Harcourt, which is the only village that's actually on the canal side. And it's a very popular place for people to come down and watch the boats coming through the locks. Well, perhaps you can tell we're starting to approach a large town, Leicester in this case, as the graffiti is building up. There are locks, wide locks, which means I can go in together with these guys. Fantastic. So we're going down Kibworth Top Lock with this fireboat crew here, who've been very good and let me in with them and know what they're doing. And we're going to do one gate, so they'll go out the left gate I'll follow them out and go back and close up. Well, that's the first wide beam boat I've seen in a while. I didn't see any after the Oxford Canal from Napton all the way through to Braunston. I don't think I saw any actually. So here's my first wide beam in quite a few miles since I got off the Thames. Bridge House Barn, 10.2 miles to Leicester. Foxton Lock's 5.8 miles. It seems like a lot longer than that. Well, we're steadily working our way down the flight. It's very, very windy. Very, very windy now. Across another little aqueduct. So there's a little stream that goes under the canal here. That was the aqueduct. What looked like a little bridge hole behind us. We got through lock 22 and now it's looking very, very much like rain if you look over there behind us where the wind's coming from. So I'm very glad I got the canopy up again, as you can see in here, because it's about to sling it down, I think. Just approaching the Bridge 77, the Bowden Road Bridge from the south, and it started raining as I guessed it would from the very overcast clouds behind us and to the left. So yeah, carrying on in this is no fun. Well, here the canal opens out, and to the southwest of us is the site of the medieval village of Wistow on this plain. I don't know if that's the church still standing from that village, but that would be worth having a look at if you had the time. And the rain has so far just been a few drops, a shower or two. It's never really come down yet. Isn't that a lovely scene across the valley there? I've moored up just to the southeast of Newton Harcourt, and next to me is this beautiful field full of sheep. Unfortunately they're quite noisy sheep. I hope they shut up tonight. They'll probably start off with all this bleating, but it looks like the farmer's dipping them over there in the corner of the field with his Land Rover. I don't know, he's doing something to them, but hopefully they'll shut up tonight and not make too much racket. Hi there. Well, I'm cycling back from Newton Harcourt to the van at Foxton, and I have come across something quite interesting. I've never done this before. I've never stood at the top of a tunnel I've been through on the boat, and it's quite interesting, not the same day anyway, and it's quite interesting because this used to be the towpath that used to come down here and then go down alongside the tunnel here, and you can see this railing where the towpath used to go through down there. But it's been closed, obviously. I don't know why. Maybe there's a landslip or something, but it's all overgrown, and I came through the field next to here. I shouldn't have done that because I didn't realise there was a towpath diversion. But here's my bike, here we go, and here's the canal. Look at that. And this railing is only at waist height. And there's the tunnel I went through. I'm just going to tip you upside down, guys. There you go. You can see that. And as you come up here, this is the interesting thing. Over the top of the tunnel is this wide track. And quite often when they built these tunnels, they built the canal and they hadn't finished the tunnels yet. So the goods would have been taken off the boats quite often here, and they'd have been dragged up a tramway across to the other side of the tunnel and then put back on the boats at the other end. Other boats that were waiting at the other end, that is. And it's possible, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's possible that this was one of those old tramways. There certainly are tramways over the Braunston Tunnel or the Blisworth, I'm not sure which one, at Stoke Bruin, but this could have been a tramway. It's possible. It's all quite graded and nicely graded, so I don't know, maybe there was a tramway and the boats were reloaded down here. whilst the tunnel was being dug. Well, this is the other end of the tunnel, and the towpath does follow the conventional ramp down here, and just slowly pan round and back down alongside the canal here, which I will ride for you. Here we go. Well, I'm just passing through the tiny village of Gumley, and this idyllic scene, this beautiful little place, has appeared in front of me. What a beautiful sight. The things you see, you'd never see this from the canal, and you probably never see this if you're driving on the motorway, because most people don't go through the small villages. But again, I've come across a beautiful little place. Absolutely stunning to see that. And on the other side of the road there's this walled garden. Brick wall, beautiful. Victorian brick wall. And there's the rest of the village. Always worth stopping and having a look. Well, this village is a real find. We've got an old manual operated water pump, which now has a sign saying that Market Harbour Rural District Council declares the water unfit for drinking purposes. We've got an old phone box that's been converted into a library or a book repository. So I'm going to see if the pump still works. Right, here we go. No, sadly it's not connected to anything anymore. Here's the village map. Look at that. Every house in the village, up to number 47. 47 houses in the village. A few books and magazines. Isn't that great? Look back up the hill. Peaceful. Nice place. Well, on my way to find a place to park the car, I have arrived in a tiny village of Wistow, which is just a bit across the canal from Newton Harcourt. And this is Wistow Church, and it's absolutely stunning. I will show you the church. This is a hamlet really, rather than a village. We'll wander around the churchyard and look at the church from the back. It's really very beautiful here. Here's a beautiful grave in carved slate. Or is it lead? Some of it's lead. Heaven's lucky it's not been pinched. That'll be lead. There. What a beautiful thing. In loving memory of Joseph Goddard of the Manor House, Newton Harcourt. Died in 1900 in his 61st year, and his wife who died in 1933 in her 95th year. And this side has suffered a bit more, but they died in the 1940s. 1901 it says on that lead plate, and 1949 there. All the Goddard family. And these beautiful old stones sadly have nothing legible on them anymore, either side. The weather has got to the better of them. God is love at the top of this one. You can barely read the rest of it. Oh, maybe you can read some of this. Would require a bit of cleaning up and effort to be able to read it. And over there, right in the centre of the shot, next to that large tufted tree, you can see my white boat. And this will be that field of sheep that were barring away, and still are. So there's my boat, and it's still there, which is a good thing. And I'm going to head back to it now. Well, it's 9 o'clock in the evening on the 6th of August. We were forecast rain all through the day, and it never really came. We had a little shower here and there, but now in the evening, when we weren't forecast to have any rain, here it comes. Not really too bothered because I'm not going anywhere. I've gone and got the car from Foxton. It's parked down in the village just by me here at Newton Harcourt.